Hello, people. All right, see Forrest comes in as well.
Hey Robert, long time no see.
Yeah, yeah, it's bound to be a little bit of like weird stuff going on now. Let's see if I go into the tag app delivery channel on Slack. Uh, I'll just mention that. Uh, that this is where it's at, I guess. I know there's not that many people that, Leon couldn't be here. Several other people couldn't be here. So I guess we'll just do the best we can with what we have. The meeting is recorded, obviously, so um, that can be distributed. I was just hoping for a little bit more people in this, but I guess I can be the host. Uh, what should I see? Thomas said co-chair last time. I'm in between. Uh, Tech lead, soon co-chair or something. All right. So the meeting notes are here. There you go. Dylan is here as well. Good. Just skip. We don't have a lot on the agenda, so we could give it a couple more minutes. Just because we have the time. So what we have on the agenda for right now is basically just getting some updates from the various working groups, and then we have a Fusion Stack. Do we have people here, yeah, that represent Fusion Stack? Great. I guess based on the profile picture. One of the.
I'm from Cushion Stack too.
All right, cool. Good. Probably going to be overwhelmingly a lot of people from Fusion Stack. That's okay, Ryan. I'm glad someone's eating. Still an hour left for dinner for me, but you know. All right. I'll just get us going, and we'll just go through, I guess, the project presentations. Like I said, this is recorded, so the people who can't be here now will at least be able to watch this later. But anyway, welcome to the 10th of July. I had to translate that in my head. The meeting, the tag app delivery general meeting. I'm going to be your host today. Like I wrote in the thing, I'm a tech lead, but soon to be co-chair, so I'm in between seats, I guess. Today we have a light agenda, but feel free to go into the meeting notes and put yourself in as an attendee if you want to. And first of all, is the intros and new faces. I guess a lot of the new faces here are from the project presentation. I don't think anyone else is not from there. So I think we can kind of combine that, I guess. Status updates. We don't have a lot of people from various working groups. I represent the platforms working group. We are currently or still currently working with the platform as a product research group, and I posted I posted today on LinkedIn on the tag app delivery LinkedIn page a link to the blog post where we are asking for participations from people to be interviewed for that. So that is a thing people could, if people don't follow the tag app delivery LinkedIn page, that is a good resource to be in, and obviously any repost and likes and stuff that makes it that helps reach is very much welcome. So we're doing that, but we're also working on the platform engineering maturity assessment tool. Long names are great stuff. Where people are currently working on some of the target audience for that and kind of doing the due diligence around that. And there are some we have our twice monthly meetings, but we also in between we use the same space to kind of deep dive into specific topics. So and next week this which will be the I didn't have a calendar. Next week on the 16th, we will have a meeting just specifically going into that that work. All right, I think that's about it for platforms working group. We also have Dylan, infrastructure lifecycle. You wanna take that or?
Sure. Basically, we have a PR up, we have a draft charter for the working group. It's a new working group we're trying to spin up. We're also in the process of figuring out nominations for chairs. There's a couple people up, Ryan, me, Bruno. There's a meeting this Friday to discuss the chair nominations so that we can include it in the PR for the draft charter. I will be on PTO this Friday, so I will not be able to make it. But if you are interested, we have a Slack channel, working group infrastructure lifecycle. And please feel free to provide feedback on the PR and the draft charter. Thank you.
Excellent. We don't have anyone from Artifacts or App Dev, I think. So with that, I think we basically could just go on to the project presentation. So this is Fusion Stack. There's a PR for the sandbox proposal. Anyone just feel free to take the word and run with it.
All right, let me hop in. Just give me a second, I'll hop over.
Physically jumping over, that's great.
All right, just 1 second. All right. Can you guys hear me well?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right. Let's get started. So good morning, evening, everyone. Hope you're all having a good day. We're representing Cushion Stack coming from Ant Group in China. So Cushion Stack is an open source tech stack to help build IDPs. But what we're presenting today is the centerpiece of Cushion Stack, which is, as the title suggests, it's an intent-driven platform orchestrator in the name of Cushion. And this will be the project we want to apply for Sandbox. So first, a quick introduction about us. My name is Forrest Chen. I have been at Ant Group for a little over a year as part of the team that maintains Cushion Stack. If you haven't heard of Ant Group, you probably have heard of Alipay, which is a payment platform that serves about 1 billion users in China, and also happens to be the sponsor of if you're watching football or soccer in the US, the sponsor of Euro 2024 that's going on right now. So prior to this job, I used to work for MasterCard in the US, designing and building an Azure IDP, Azure-based IDP. So my colleague here is Dayuan Li. He has been at Ant Group for 6 years, and he's an expert in building large-scale application management platform. He's also the maintainer of Cushion Stack and an active contributor for the past couple of years. So about our agenda today, we want to start with some of the challenges we have observed, especially the ones that contributed to the inception of this project. We'll explain what our vision looks like and how Cushion intends to solve these problems. And then we'll see a quick demo in action for an application delivered via Cushion. And then finally, we'll take a look at the status quo for Cushion's community and a comparison between Cushion versus some of the similar projects. So some of the most common struggles we have observed from our fellow engineers over the years. During an application delivery, what we hear the most, the developers complain the most is usually how disconnected the experience feels like and how extremely unpleasant it is to navigate through this maze of complexity. So what we hear being asked are usually, how many internal systems are involved, how many cloud products are involved, how many people do I have to ping? And we think the reason this happens is that infrastructure complexity has essentially outgrown our developers, or in other words, you might have heard this over and over again, that cloud native applications are more than just Kubernetes. Because of that, developers are forced to learn the subtle differences between AWS Aurora versus RDS, stuff like that. They're forced to make decisions that they're not very good at, or they have to rely on someone else to tell them the answer. So this has caused some real pain because in a lot of the cases, it's tickets driven or it's people driven. It's about how you find the right people for the job. And that means if you have someone missing the chain, you're going to take a big hit in your time to market. So we ran in the traditional platform as a service approach for nearly a decade. And to summarize it, we see a bunch of problems. That's eventually going to slow down innovation and business value creation. For the developers, we think they're usually, like I mentioned earlier, they're usually overloaded with infrastructure knowledge that, in our opinion, in most of the cases, they should not be concerned with. And then platforms became a bottleneck for exposing infrastructure capabilities. And this has happened in my last two jobs because there's just a billion different infrastructures with very subtle differences in them, even for the platform teams to get used to. And sometimes also due to a lack of openness and transparency for the relevant parties or for the interested parties to try to join the effort and build it together. And then from the perspective of the community, we think it could potentially slow down the adoption of new technologies. Imagine we build all these fancy new toys, but people don't want to play with them because they're just too damn hard to run. Or it could take several full-time jobs to operate. And we think this is an industry-wide problem, and precisely why platform engineering is a thing at the moment. So not just us, the engineering community thinks that the complexity has reached a certain point that it's kind of hurting productivity. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Is my audio kind of out of sync for the audience?
Not that I noticed.
No,
it's
seems pretty good.
Okay, thank you very much. So for us at the Cushion Stack team, our vision is try to make innovation and value delivery easier. Starting with us believing that effective collaborations should be protocol driven, not people driven or tickets driven. So what Cushion wants to do is ultimately define a pattern on how different parts of a software engineering organization should collaborate, and ultimately having this consistent and effective collaborations is the end result would be to drive agile innovations and enable more, quality business value creation. So as an open source platform orchestrator, what Cushion wants to achieve, all that by, providing these key values to our end users. So when it comes to golden paths, we believe that each organization might define or craft it slightly differently based on actual needs. So instead of spoon feeding what we think is right, we want the users to be able to define this themselves to serve their specific organizational needs. Right. So my company might say developers should care about database sizes, and yours might not. So, and as mentioned earlier, Cushion essentially wants to define a collaboration paradigm, right, and let users consolidate and codify their own experience into these so-called golden paths, which is made up from codified modules, workflows, or policies. So we think they represent the delivery and operational intent of the user. And that's why we call Cushion intent-driven. And these are extremely valuable assets to any software engineering organizations. So in a perfect world, the developers wouldn't care about anything but the actual business logic that helped them create business value, right? So they wouldn't care about most things they are forced to care about today. The way we see Cushion helping is we want to help the user split those things into two categories. Those that they want to control and configure, and those that they don't. So the latter becomes responsibility of the platform engineers, or in this case, we call these things, we call them platform opinions. Cushion, as the orchestrator, will essentially try to match the developer inputs and the platform opinions into everything that the application needs to get up and running. Another key aspect of Cushion is we want to enforce the vendor agnostic quality, I guess. And precisely because the developers don't need to care about the underlying infrastructure details for the application, their experience just became platform and vendor agnostic. And finally, I just want to mention that because Cushion is fully aware that cloud native apps are more than just Kubernetes, we designed Cushion to be able to manage resources across different runtimes, or you may hear them being called resource planes as needed. Runtime is a distinct layer that defines how to turn specifications into the actual infrastructure resources. So in the meantime, we have something called Cushion modules, which are designed to be easily extendable to facilitate all the diversified and long tail requirements. So this slide is to dive slightly deeper into how Cushion does what it does. Starting with the bottom left corner, on day 0, we'll have the platform teams setting up everything needed for application developers to come into play on day 1. So this includes defining modules and workflow workload profiles for the developers to choose from. We'll talk more about what Cushion modules look like on the next slide, but basically it's a standardized and reusable building block that represents some capability, for example, a database or monitoring. Then next, the platform engineer is just going to set up these environment-specific configurations. Or in Cushion's terms, these are sometimes referred to as workspace configurations. A workspace is generally representing a landing zone, which is a concept that we made intentionally vague because, again, we think different organizations may define these resource isolations or things like environments or zones slightly differently. So we want this concept of workspace to be able to fit into kind of this dynamically. Then on day 1, once those are completed, application developers can come in and then they'll define their applications declaratively. They will come in and choose the workflow profiles, they'll choose the modules they probably need, and leverage those to fully describe their applications. And then we should be able to see an example in just a bit. So modules are designed to only minimally expose things that only the developers care about, and the rest is handled by the module itself. So Cushion platform orchestrator sitting at the center here. It takes two inputs, one from the application developers, and then with application configurations that are environment agnostic, and the other half comes from the platform engineers with the platform opinions. So they're dynamically matched together to generate what we call spec in Cushion's terms, which is a uniform specification that is supposed to be final and resource facing. So they serve as the single source of truth for an application delivery, and they map one-to-one to the actual infrastructure. So look at let's take a look at an example of how Cushion modules work. So as mentioned earlier, these modules are standardized and reusable building blocks. They are defined and managed by platform engineers. A Cushion module consists of two parts. You have a developer-friendly, a developer-facing and friendly schema written in KCL, which happens to be another CNCF sandbox project, which is the DSL. And it also includes a generator written in general programming language, currently in Golang. So that is supposed to produce the final resource specifications, or as we call it, the spec. So a published Cushion module takes two inputs, right? One from the application developer, the other one comes from the platform. So coming from the platform is the platform, the environment specific configurations, or in Cushion's term, workspace configuration. They usually represent a set of default values for a module in a given environment, right? So in this example right here, we see starting from line 2, this is the opinionated defaults coming from the platform team, starting from line 2 to line number 8 for the MySQL module. And then from line 9 and below, this is some advanced features which allow you to override the default module config with application selectors. So all the application developers needs to do is in the top right corner, all they have to do is choose the module they want to use, and then instantiate those modules and create an app configuration, which is just purely built around the concept of an application, which we'll see on this page. So this is a developer-facing parts. What the developers see is this application-centric model, and really the only thing they need to be familiar with during an application delivery. It includes the workload, which describes the compute workload configurations. It also includes a bunch of accessories, which is the instance of the modules the Cushion modules that were mentioned earlier. It basically defines all the resource dependencies and the workflow dependencies without having to supply the environment specific values. And then Cushion ensures it provides everything needed for the application to run. Right. So this looks complicated, but all I want to talk about is the bottom part, which is the workflow for Cushion. So we'll be showing a demo very shortly, and the demo we're showing today will be directly against the CLI tool itself. But in production, you can wrap it inside a CI/CD pipeline. You can stuff it inside a service, which we have done internally in both cases, and build an IDP in a matter of hours. So on a high level, there are 3 steps. You have coding, you have preview, and then you have deploy. So the first step would be coding, and then that includes authoring the app configuration file mentioned earlier, which uses KCL to describe your application declaratively. After that's defined, the second step would be to use Cushion tool to preview the changes if there's any. You obviously want to catch any surprises, especially if you're shipping to production. Right, so the final step is to actually ship the application by running something called cushion apply. So in each of the phases, it does a combination of things which we won't go into for details for now. So now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Da Yuan, who will be covering the demo part and the community part afterwards.
Thank you, Forrest. Hi, everyone. My name is Li Dayuan. You can call me Daniel. I'm the maintainer of Cushion Stack. I will give a brief demo for everyone. For convenience, I will use the local file system as the backend in this demo to store platform configurations. Although in a real production environment, the backend could be a database, object storage, or other storage media. Okay, first, let's take a look at the workspace configuration maintained by platform engineers. This includes a MySQL database module with a set of default values, such as cloud provider and default disk size and instance type. Once the platform engineer has initialized the module in the current workspace, application developers can list all available modules and choose the required one. Okay, now next, let's switch to the application developer perspective. Everything that an application developer needs to know is contained within a directory, which is a working directory of Cushion. In Cushion's context, this is called a stack. Yeah, this is the file directory. As mentioned by Forrest before, all configurations are described with KCL. So Cushion will use the KCL.mode file to manage all modules. So some modules have been added to this stack. I'm going to add a new one. Okay, we can list the available modules using the Cushion module list command. Cushion module list. Okay, the MySQL module is shown here. And then add it by the command cushion module add. Cushion. Okay. We can see that a new module has been added in here. Let's go back to the application configuration file I have written before. The MySQL module had been imported and in the line 5, and it initialized in the accessory block. Only 2 fields need to be set: is the type cloud and the version 8.0. Okay, let's go back to the workload module. You may notice that some environment variables referenced in the workload module. During the generating process, the MySQL module will be translated into actual cloud resource references. And once these cloud resources are successfully created, Cushion will replace these references with real values and inject them into the workload. Okay, so after completing the configuration, we will continue to execute the apply command. Yeah. Okay. And Cushion will automatically calculate the resource changes and show you the specific details of these changes. And let me choose some items to see what is going on. Let me select the, okay, that's the database instance. As you can see that some resources are Kubernetes resources like secret service and deployment, and we leverage the Terraform ecosystem. So some cloud resources will be provisioned by the Terraform. So you can see some Terraform resources here. So I'm gonna choose the database instance. Okay, here is the AWS database instance resource, and some various assets here, and here the path in the field password, here the reference. And this reference will be replaced by Cushion once the cloud database is created successfully. Okay, I'm gonna apply all these changes. Okay, creating a cloud database is quite time consuming, taking about 5 to 10 minutes. I will keep Cushion running, but we won't wait for it here. Let's continue with the presentation and check its state at the end. While Cushion is processing, and it will continuously watch all the resource status until all the resources are created successfully. Okay. Well, what is Cushion doing now? Cushion will execute 3 steps. The first is provision Kubernetes resources such as deployment, service, secret, and etc., and provision cloud resources such as DB instance and security group. And the third step is inject environment variables to the workload. So the workload can connect to the cloud resource without knowing the actual value, especially the secrets. Okay, here is our roadmap, which mainly focuses on 3 directions. The first part is enriching the module ecosystem to meet more scenarios, including the ecosystem of CNCF and reusing modules from the Terraform ecosystem. The second part involves supporting LLM operations. Cushion is essentially designed to tackle team collaboration challenges. The LLM operations also involve many collaborative tasks. We believe Cushion can boost the operational efficiency of LLM engineers in the setting as well. The third part is the Cushion server. Currently, Cushion is a command line tool which has its pros and cons. Through our discussion with community users, we have discovered that some of them prefer a long-running service with a web portal. We are planning to build this form of Cushion, and we have already started developing some features. Here is a link provided in this slide. You can check this link for more details about the detail of our roadmap. Okay, in this section, I'd like to introduce our community. As of now, Cushion has over 800 stars and 75 folks and 25 contributors. Our website has attracted over 5.7K users so far this year. On the right, you can see a map illustrating the geographical distribution of our users, highlighting the diversity of our community. They are spread all over the world. Currently, more than 5 companies are utilizing Cushion, and we also actively maintain our Slack channel, blog, and hold regular community meetings. Okay, here is a comparison with other projects within the community. We have highlighted 3 main projects of comparison, but you can find a more comprehensive comparison on our website through the link provided below. Radius is the closest project we have seen recently. Radius is also application-centric and supports the separation of concern. However, there are quite a lot of differences. Here are some of the most standout ones. Radius depends on having a Kubernetes cluster. It's a control plane within Kubernetes. And Cushion is a standalone CLI tool currently. And the second one is Cushion provides a unified data format called spec, which serves as the single source of truth for hybrid resources applied into real environments. The hybrid resources represent resources such as Kubernetes, cloud, and on-prem infrastructures. The persistence of this intermediate layer of data contains all operational intention and can be used for version management and rollbacks, for example. The second project is Kubevela. From our perspective, Kubevela is more similar to Radius. So the similarity and the first 2 points of Cushion's differences are also similar to Radius. I want to repeat them. As for DCM, it's a capability that Kubevela doesn't have. With this capability, Cushion can deploy a single application configuration to multi-environments without any modification. Cross-plane, the third project is cross-plane. Cross-plane and Terraform are somewhat similar, but they address problems in different dimensions than Cushion. However, Cushion can also reuse the cross-plane ecosystem, just as Cushion currently reuses the Terraform ecosystem. And cross-plane manages resources lifecycle and have an extension mechanism, which is similar to other projects listed here, but the app dev's interface is YAML. We think that DSL have built-in validation and error checking to ensure that the code is correct, while YAML may require additional manual validations and testing. This is a burden for developers. Okay. Okay, before we start the QA, let me check if the application operation has finished. Okay, it's finished. And all resources are created successfully, and the pod is created. Let me export forward. Export pod forward service, so we can connect the pod from our browser. Okay, let me refresh the Amazon dashboard. Oh, sign again. Okay, the new DB stand has been created, and I want to. Okay, since we are connected through the VPN and the network is slow, I will try to load it first. Oh, let me check what's going on. like a value had been injected to the workload. It was supposed to. Okay, the network. Oh. Okay, since we are connected through the VPN and the network is stable, so I will show you guys a video that we pre-recorded today, just to show what. Okay. Okay. If everything goes well, we can open this page. Okay, let's continue the QA part.
All right. First of all, thank you. Good presentation. I have a couple of questions in terms of kind of where this fits into everything, because so it seems to me like this is mostly going towards a type like Terraform type tool, the way that it's designed now, at least. You know, there's a CLI tool where you define some resources, then you run the CLI, and then the resources are, you know, up and running. And so, but do you interface with like cloud platforms directly in some cases? Because you mentioned Terraform, so how does that work?
No, the short answer is no, not really. We don't directly interface with cloud providers. We're leveraging existing tools like, for example, Terraform, and or in some cases Crossplane as well. You can absolutely render a spec that includes, Crossplane YAMLs, and then just kind of dump it into a Kubernetes cluster and let Crossplane providers do its job. So when you mention it's kind of similar to Terraform, that's actually kind of an interesting point. My first reaction to this tool, because I joined this team a little over a year ago, my first reaction to this tool is that it is it's probably exactly like what you just said. It's like Terraform, but only in the sense that it defines kind of a workflow. You have Terraform plan, you have cushion preview, you have apply. The difference would be that I think there's the concept of an application and the clear line drawn between what the application team should be doing and what the platform team should be doing. I think ultimately what Cushion does is it defines a way to collaborate. And I think that kind of I think I guess that's the main point that we're trying to make. Instead of that, it's just a workflow. Like it's a tool that provides, workflow.
Yeah, so it's you're aiming to create a abstraction layer between the typical infrastructure as code scene, whatever you want to call it, that is right now, and kind of developers.
I prefer to see it as we're providing a bunch of mechanisms so that people can define their own abstraction layers. I don't know if that makes sense.
Do I need to change?
Okay. But right now there's you're using Terraform and you're talking about crossplay, and is this something where you could potentially supply your own kind underlying tool or choice. So if for instance, if you want to use OpenTofu or Pulumi or something else, and you want to make that easier for people to use, is that something that you're looking at with CushionStack?
Absolutely, yeah. So I don't know if you recall, but there's something mentioned in the presentation called a runtime, which is kind of a separate layer that defines how exactly you're turning a bunch of either YAMLs or JSON or but your resource specifications, how you turn it into, how you connect that with your actual infrastructure provider, right? For how we applying Kubernetes resource that's client Go, and then for Terraform resources, that's Terraform CLIs. And if we want to expand that, and in fact, we do that internally. We have more than those two runtimes internally. All you have to do is define how you interact with those infrastructure providers. Like for crossplane, it's actually also Kubernetes. For OpenTofu, you just have to define the life cycle of your OpenTofu resources and how that interfaces with Kubernetes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So and you mentioned there's going to be, because one of the things that I always look for is how do you automate this? And obviously as a CLI tool, pipelines usually, but as someone that comes from the GitOps side of things, you're talking about a CushionStack server or Cushion server or whatever the terminology was there. Is there a Kubernetes operator in the works here that will automate these things so people could supply just basically somewhat of a manifest and put this somewhere? Or
so we're trying to, we have a product of Cushion server that's in the run internally. It's not open source yet. We're trying to kind of polish it first and prove that it's actually a valid idea and can provide values. It's not currently, it's not a Kubernetes operator. It's just it's a long running service that provides REST APIs. And it's I don't have to answer a question.
Okay. No, but just like from for instance, like a crossplane perspective, you have several ways of interacting with crossplane as soon as it runs in a Kubernetes cluster. You could use pipelines if you want to, which is something that I'm kind of working against with entire GitOps way of thinking. But then obviously crossplane then will work in a Gauss scenario because it's just Kubernetes manifests at that point. So basically that is kind of my question. Is there a potential future where CushionStack could run on the Kubernetes cluster, and I could interact with something like Flux or Argo or something to that effect? If that is kind of the chosen way that my developers wants to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an option. That's definitely an option. Yeah. Did you have anything to add?
And some users from our community has also proposed that if we can make a cushion into a Kubernetes operator, we are still we're still discussing. We are still discuss with our users, but there is not a conclusion.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, and this doesn't represent official project opinions. I think this is we're not positioning Cushion as like you have to strictly have a Kubernetes cluster to be functional. I think we're positioning as it's a layer above. It's orchestrating your Kubernetes resources and other stuff, perhaps outside of a Kubernetes cluster, so that it's not really a dependency or But absolutely valid point. Like Davia mentioned, we have users who's been asking for that, and it's absolutely in discussion.
Yeah, the only kind of, again, it's kind of an opinion thing for me. But it's the way the things are now with it being a CLI tool, the only way you can kind of automate this is through some sort of pipeline, because you need something to run those commands. We in the GitOps community are trying to get away from pipelines being the deployment way of doing deployment. It's very good for everything up to that point, and then it's kind of like imperative commands put into a file and hope that it works. So that's why you want that to be kind of like an automatic process, which is where if Cushion Stack supported running it like that, that would just be like a plus, right? Because it's not like a lot of people are going to run it like that, but some of us wants to, you know, one way to look at it. But again, it's a thing where if more people start asking for it, then maybe it become a bigger topic later on. I was just curious. The only thing that I have left is kind of, sometimes it becomes like this obvious question, but you have several maintainers on the project, but they all come from the same company. Is that correct? Because the list that I saw at least had only people from Ant.
Yeah. Isn't that typical for Sandbox though?
It usually is. I'm just asking in terms of what are the plans going forward for
Okay.
getting more people in from other companies. Is that something you have been thinking about?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely. I mean, this is and this is not a joke. It's actually on our KPIs, but uh, yeah, that is a joke.
We already have around 25 contributors, and more than half of them are from other companies.
Yeah, we have some light
They are not
contributors.
maintainers, but they are contributors.
Right.
Contributors once they have some submit more codes, they will level up into the maintainer.
So yeah, we do have some light contributors from outside the company, and there's something we're also doing is we're actively engaging with other companies in China on I think monthly basis. We're talking to other potential users, and then we're trying to convert them into not just our users, but also contributors or maintainers. So.
Excellent. Because like Brian mentioned, it's kind of typical that sandbox projects do kind of it comes from somewhere, right? Like some company started doing something, and that's why we're there. But it's obviously something that is not that important at the moment. But that's one of the main benefits of the CNCF that people always, and I bring every time I talk about certain projects, like we want to adopt that project because it's vendor neutral from like all the way down to who maintains the code. So it is an important thing later on, but at the moment it's not really that important. But I just wanted to make sure that you're working towards having more maintainers from other companies as well.
Yes, sure.
Fully aware.
I don't know, Ryan, do you have anything?
I mean, we're about a time. My main question was about how do users automate it, because that was top of mind for me. I know the feedback that Robert was sharing about GitOps is feedback that we heard very loud and clear on Radius, like immediately when we went outside of Microsoft and went to the community, started talking to like a lot of Azure customers. A lot of them are like, nope, GitOps is the thing that we do here. It is the only way that we're going to deploy applications. I think one of my questions was about credential management, and I think I probably know the answer, which is that whoever is doing the apply operation has to have credentials to all the things that you're going to get applied to, which is another limitation that we ran into, where for a lot of customers and users, like they do not want app developers to have credentials to production. And they don't want app developers to have like any AWS credentials that can create resources, as an example. So maybe you'll hear that, maybe you won't hear that. But that's something that we definitely heard very loud and clear from people, that the people deploying the apps don't have the credentials. And if it's pipeline based, then you kind of have the same problem with pipelines. It's not as severe. If it's more of a GitOps based system, then usually that means the developers don't have credentials to those things. So just 2 cents there. I liked the presentation. I think it's really cool. I think one of the questions that was a little unclear to me was with your model for compute. So you've defined your own type for service, and I think I saw that there was one for job as well. To what degree are those meant to be coupled to Kubernetes versus an abstraction of generalized compute?
That's actually, that's a great question. We've run into, we've come across a case where our users literally just said, we want to use an ECS. We want to use like an EC2, which is, ECS is like an EC2 equivalent. They want to use that for workload. So I think one of the things that we're doing recently is we are turning workloads into modules, or that's how we call it. We're modularizing it. So they're not going to be anything special, I think. As opposed to a regular module.
So if I understand, go ahead.
Okay, basically, each code block in the application configuration is a module. Yeah, that's our goal.
Okay. Yeah. So if I'm understanding the answer correctly, there's nothing special about the service type or the job type or any of the things that appear built in from that point of view, because I could replace them with my own things if I wanted to. Like if I'm a platform engineer, if I'm a platform engineer at a company and I want to define, if I want to define like website as a type, I could define that and have my users use it. And I don't really have to interact with the things that are built in.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Okay, very cool.
All right, we're 5 minutes over now. I don't want to be conscious of time, so unless there's anything else, I guess we can.
We have some
stuff. Sorry.
We do have a question. So
okay.
When we submitted the application for Sandbox, we submitted for Cushion Stack, which is it's a bunch of loosely coupled tools that we think is helpful when someone's trying to build an IDP. But we were not sure if that's the right gesture, I guess. Like, is the community, is it the community welcome like a whole bunch of
it depends. There's various projects that do this in various ways. For instance, Argo has different tooling underneath it. Same with Flux and others. They have like an umbrella term, and they might have underlying components that are all kind of in the same, comes from the same place. So unless you are creating something where like Cushion Stack is kind of like the umbrella term, and you have 20 completely different tools that come out of it, that might be where you kind of draw the line and start like splitting it up a little bit. But if you have Cushion Stack as a concept, and then you have specific toolings that kind of all underline underneath Cushion Stack as a project, if you know what I'm trying to get to, I think that is okay, at least to a certain extent. However, that is something that probably someone from the TOC probably could be more concrete on, because they've probably run into that issue in other projects as well, where they had to either say we need to split that up or whatever.
Okay, so What was I
Do,
gonna say?
do we need to?
Oh, yeah. I think for the sake of, just so that it's a lot easier to understand, I think we've just kind of singled out cushion because it's really the most centerpiece of the core part of cushion stack, and that's the thing that we're trying to, push at the moment. So, is the next step would be to, well, first to update our sandbox application, and then second, does it have to go under a separate org? Like it's currently sitting under a cushion stack.
I'm not 100% sure, to be fully honest. That's a thing that the TLC probably could be better to answer, but usually, at least in cases where things all fall under the same project. For instance, Argo has one organization for the project, and all Argo tools go into that organization in different repositories. Same with Flux, same with many of these other, like Crossplane does the same thing, and so on and so forth. But it depends on how you want to split this up, going forward. If everything kind of falls under the cushion name, having one org called cushion stack is probably not going to be a problem, I think. But don't quote me on that. That's very much a technical oversight committee topic.
Appreciate it. So, I think that's, yeah.
But do we need to revise the submission, the issue submission? Okay.
All right.
I think
That's
that's
all.
it from us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate your
If there
time.
is any, if there is anything else, just use the CNCF Slack and just reach out. You've been assigned Karina, so she's your contact towards the TOC. I'm gonna talk to her a little bit about this and see if there's anything else that we can, as a tag, can help with. And obviously the recording is gonna go online, and we can share that to those who couldn't join us today. And I guess at the end of the day, we're just gonna ask Karina what more she needs and where to go from there. And but really good presentation, and I really liked the project. That doesn't really help you, but at least I like it. And it looks like it's gonna. I think you can do good with this. So it's a good project. So thank you for sharing, and I wish you all the best, and I hope to see you again soon.
Okay,
Thank
thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks for your time.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.